Alright, welcome one and all, those of you who have been contestants this year and have come to see your comments on your poem. Welcome. Welcome to those of you who have just come to see what your classmates or your acquaintances have managed to do this year. Again, thanks to those of you as well. My name is David Bourne. I have been co-organizing this poetry competition with Mr. Copeland in this very strange year, shall we say. I have also been judging the accuracy of poems, so you will be hearing from me again during the course of this video, as well as from other adjudicators. With this brief introduction out of the way, please enjoy the performances of the top prima to tertia contestants.
Monsters, Dorothea Lasky. This is a world where there are monsters. There are monsters everywhere. Raccoons and skunks. There are possums outside. There are monsters in my bed. There's one monster. He's my little one. I talk to my little monster. I give my little monster some bacon, but that does not satisfy him. I tell him, shh, shh, don't growl, little monster. And he growls. Oh boy, he growls. And he wants something from me. He wants my soul. And finally giving in, I give him my gleaming soul. And as he eats my gleaming soul, I am one with him. And stare out his eye pits, I see nothing but white. And then I see nothing but fog. And the white I've seen before was nothing but fog. And there's nothing but fog out the eyes of monsters.
Falling in Love by Alan Watts. Well, now really when we go back then to falling in love and say it's crazy. Falling. You see, we don't say rising into love. There is in it the idea of the fall. And it goes back, as a matter of fact, to extremely fundamental things. That there is always a curious tie at some point between the fall and the creation. Taking this ghastly risk is the condition of there being life. You see, for all, life is an act of faith and an act of gamble. The moment you take a step, you do so on an act of faith because you don't really know the floor is not going to give under your feet. The moment you take a journey, what an act of faith. The moment you enter any kind of human undertaking and relationship, what an act of faith. You've given yourself up. But this is the most powerful thing that could be done, surrender. You see, and love is an act of surrender to another person. Totally abandon. I give myself. Here, take me, do anything you like. So, that's quite mad, because you see, it's letting things get out of control. Well, sensible people keep things in control. Watch it, watch it, watch it. Security. Vigilance. Watch it, police. Watch it, gods. Watch it. Who's gonna watch the gods? So, actually, therefore, the course of wisdom, what is really sensible is to let go, is to commit oneself, to give oneself up, and that's quite mad. So we come to this strange conclusion that in madness lies sanity.
Snowy day. Snow, snow, snow falls from the sky. Cold, cold, cold. I wonder why. Throw a snowball. Build a snowman. It is such great fun. Bundle up in winter clothes. Keep warm by the sun. Wonderful day. Snow or cold weather? Yes, winter is here. Keep warm by the fire. You should have no fear. Ice skating, hot cocoa, snowballs, and sleds. Winter is coming. Oh no, my nose is red.
A Poem of Life by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. In the rapture of life and of living, I lift up my heart and rejoice, and I thank the great giver for giving the soul of my gladness a voice. In the glow of the glorious weather, in the sweet-scented, sensuous air, my burdens seem light as a feather. They're nothing to bear. In the strength and the glory of power, in the pride and the pleasure of wealth. For who dare dispute me my dower of talents, youth, time, and health? I can laugh at the world and its sages. I'm greater than seers who are sad, for he is most wise in all ages, who knows how to be glad. I lift up my eyes to Apollo, the god of the beautiful days, and my spirit soars off like a swallow and gets lost in the light of its rays. Are you troubled and sad? I beseech you, come out of the shadows of strife. Come out in the sun while I teach you the secret of life. Come out of the world, come above it, up over its crosses and graves. Though the green earth is fair and I love it, we must love as its masters, not slaves. Come up where the dust never rises, but only the perfume of flowers, and your life shall be glad with surprises of beautiful hours. Come up where the rare golden wine is, Apollo distills in my sight, and your life shall be happy as mine is, and as full of delight.
Hello, this is Mr. Aston. I'm judge number 3, and I am judging prima, secunda, and tertia. I'm focusing on voice and articulation, evidence of understanding, and level of complexity. So I've been interested in how well you show your understanding of the content and theme of the poem through how you read out the words, your volume, the emphasis that you put on particular words, and the kind of emotional depth that you bring to the poem. And I've been extremely impressed with everyone's entries, and I just want to say a few things about what I've heard and what I've enjoyed. And so I've listened to a wonderful performance of Song of Life from Andreas, who showed great control. You were really good at using pauses and especially using gesture as you were speaking. Annabella, wonderful energy in your rendition of Monsters. Your clear enunciation and your use of pauses I thought was exemplary. Okay, Veronica, you read The Road Not Taken, which is a poem that needs a nice, slow and reflective, thoughtful delivery, which I thought you did really well. And I loved your choice of backdrop as well. It really matched the tone and mood of the poem excellently. Emma, Messy Room, a humorous poem, which you delivered with humour. You delivered it with good volume and you used pauses very well to show your understanding. And the twist at the end I thought was quite funny. Barbara, very brave and very friendly performance of Best Friends Forever. I thought it was utterly sweet, and I'm sure that it's something that many, many parents here will enjoy watching you recite it. I thought you did a wonderful job, and I'm sure you're a very good friend to your friends. And then we come to Ina. Ina, you chose a complex poem, Wordsworth's Daffodils. And I thought you did a really good job with your recital. Good expression, good speed, and there was a lot there to think about. Emily Dickinson, another complex poem. Wonderful expression, really thoughtful rendition that showed an excellent understanding of what I think, as I said, is quite a complex poem. A really, really good choice. Thank you very much.
Oh no, my nose is red.
My goodness, I really enjoyed that, Christoph. You put a lot of preparation into that. There's a lot of props. I can see that you've got the timing of certain things, like you throw the snowball and someone throws the snowball back at you. Your nose turning red at the end is absolutely hilarious. Really, really, really satisfying, especially to see such a performance at the end of the year as we come towards Christmas. Precisely the sort of thing we want to be enjoying at this time of year, this special time. So Merry Christmas to you, and thank you so much for your time and effort. And Marie, you chose Alan Watts, A Reflection on Love. You also added a soundtrack to it as well. There's a number of things I really liked about that performance. Number one, your use of pausing, especially at the beginning. I could tell that you really wanted to give this the full gravity that it merited. It's quite complex in that in reality it's a kind of dramatic monologue, and so you bring the rhythm to it. You're the one that makes it poetic, and I think you did a good job at that. There was an emotional intensity to that performance, which I think that everyone will appreciate it. So in summary, I would say that I've been really impressed by efforts to really capture the tone and mood of the poem and deliver it in a dramatic way that does it justice. And I think that you've all made an effort to do that. Thank you very much.
Formula 1 by Matej Tlačka. It's lights out and away we go. Will Mercedes again steal the show? Oh no, Hamilton's onto the grass, because Valtteri won't let him pass. It looks like history is in the making, but first, some illegal overtaking. Ricciardo claims to have done no wrong, neither at racing nor at ping pong. Now it's Verstappen's turn to defend, with Sebastian behind him to the end. And while no hair grows on his chin, Verstappen takes his maiden win.
I've got a golden ticket by Roald Dahl. I never thought my life could be anything but catastrophe, but suddenly I begin to see a bit of good luck for me. 'Cause I've got a golden ticket. I've got a golden twinkle in my eye. I never had a chance to shine, never a happy song to sing, but suddenly half the world is mine. What an amazing thing. 'Cause I've got a golden ticket. It's ours, Charlie. I've got a golden sun up in the sky. I never thought I'd see the day when I would face the world and say, good morning, look at the sun. I never thought that I would be slap in the lap of luxury, 'cause I'd have said it couldn't be done, but it can be done. I never dreamt that I would climb over the moon in ecstasy, but nevertheless, it's there that I'm shortly about to be. 'Cause I've got a golden ticket. I've got a golden chance to make my way. And with a golden ticket, it's a golden day. Good morning, look at the sun. 'Cause I have said it couldn't be done, but it can be done. I never dreamt that I would climb over the moon in ecstasy, but nevertheless, it's there that I'm shortly about to be. 'Cause I've got a golden ticket. I've got a golden ticket. I've got a golden chance to make my way. And with a golden ticket, it's a golden day. Thank you.
William Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet, Act 3, Scene 2. Shall I speak ill of him that is my husband? Ah, poor my lord, what tongue shall smooth thy name, when I, thy 3 hours wife had mangled it. But wherefore, villain, didst thou kill my cousin? That villain cousin would have killed my husband. Back, foolish tis, back to your native spring. Your tributary drops belong to woe, which you, mistaking, offer up to joy. My husband lives that Tybalt would have slain, and Tybalt's dead that would have slain my husband. All this is comfort. Wherefore weep I then? Some word there was, worse than Tybalt's death, that murdered me. I would forget it fain, but oh, it presses to my memory, like some damned guilty deed to sinners' minds. Tybalt is dead, and Romeo banished. That banished, that one word, banished, hath slain 10,000 Tybalts. Tybalt's death was woe enough if it had ended there, or if sore woe delights in fellowship, and needly will be ranked with other griefs, why followed not when she said, Tybalt's dead? Thy father, or thy mother, nay, or both, which modern lamentation might be moved? But with a rearward, following Tybalt's death, Romeo is banished. With that one word, father, mother, Tybalt, Romeo, Juliet, all slain, all dead. Romeo is banished. There is no end, no limit, measure, bound in that word's death. No words that woe can sound. Where is my mother, my father? Wash they his wounds with tears? Mine shall be spent when theirs are dried. For Romeo's banishment. Take up those coals. Poor ropes. You are beguiled, both you and I. For Romeo is exiled. He made you for a highway to my bed. But I, maid, I'm maiden widowed. Come, nurse, come, cords, I'll to my wedding bed. And death, not Romeo, shall take my maiden head.
Never forget that life is a huge gift. In fact, it's the biggest gift of all. It's there at one moment, gone in another. I was dumb and didn't care. Now I can only swear. I thought I was young, immortal, while in reality I was the complete opposite. I was young, but vulnerable. How come have I been so blind? I was living in a moment, and then it hit me. I thought I would be surely gone. I'm going to kick the bucket soon, I told myself, carrying the burden of leaving nothing, absolutely nothing behind. Would anyone remember me? Would anyone even care? I devoted my life to a goal. And for what? To die? I wouldn't allow myself to give up. I knew I had to fight. I had no other choice. I was devastated, and yet I had to put on a mask. A mask that said, I'm fine, everything's great. While my soul slowly but surely rotting inside. I was terrified. Will it hurt? Will I wake up tomorrow? I needed answers, and that's when I turned to him. I begged him for a miracle, but still, I wasn't sure he would answer my prayers. Well, I guess he did, because 2 years later, I'm sitting here telling you this and thanking the man above for giving me a second chance.
I Am Not Yours by Sarah Teasdale. I am not yours, not lost in you, not lost, although I long to be, lost as a candle lit at noon, lost as a snowflake in the sea. You love me, and I found you still, a spirit beautiful and bright, yet I am I, who long to be, lost as light is lost in light. Oh, plunge me deep in love, put out my senses, leave me deaf and blind, swept by the tempest of your love, a tender in a rushing wind.
If You Forget Me by Pablo Neruda. I want you to know one thing. You know how this is. If I look at the crystal moon, at the red branch of the slow autumn at my window, if I touch near the fire the impalpable ash or the wrinkled body of the log, everything carries me to you, as if everything that exists, aromas, light, metals, were boats that sail towards those isles of yours that wait for me. Well now, if little by little you stop loving me, I shall stop loving you little by little. If suddenly you forget me, do not look for me, for I shall already have forgotten you. If you think it long and mad, the wind of banners that passes through my life, and you decide to leave me at the shore of the heart where I have roots, remember that on that day, at that hour, I shall lift my arms and my roots will set off to seek another land. But if each day, each hour, you feel that distant for me with implacable sweetness, if each day a flower climbs up to her lips to seek me, ah, my love, ah, my own, in me, all that fire is repeated. In me, nothing is extinguished or forgotten. My love feeds on your love, beloved. And as long as you live, it will be in your arms without leaving mine.
All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They all have their exits and entrances. And one man in his time plays many parts. At first, the infant, mewling and puking in his nurse's arms. Then, the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face creeping like snail unwillingly to school. Then the lover, sighing like furnace with the woeful ballad made to his mistress's eyebrow. Then the soldier, full of strange oaths, bearded like the pard, jealous in honor, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation even in the cannon's mouth. Then the justice, in fair round belly, with good cape and lined, eyes severe and beard of formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances. And so he plays his part, The sixth age shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon, with spectacles on nose and pouch on side. His youthful hose well saved a world too wide for his shrunk shank, his big manly voice turning again towards childish treble, pipes and whistles in his sound. Last scene of all, that ends this strange eventful history, is second childishness and mere oblivion. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything.
John Milton and Shakespeare. What needs my Shakespeare for his honoured bones? The labour of an age in piled stones, or that his hallowed relics should be hid under a starry pointing pyramid? Dear son of memory, great heir of fame, what needest thou such weak witness of thy name? Thou in our wonder and astonishment hast built thyself a livelong monument. For whilst to the shame of slow endeavouring art thy easy numbers flow, and that each heart hath from the leaves of thy unvalued book those Delphic lines with deep impression took, then thou, our fancy of itself bereaving, dost make us marble with too much conceiving, and so sepulchred in such pomp dost lie, that kings for such a tomb would wish to die.
Hello world, my name is Pavel Jerek and I'm from Contestants. I would like to present to you my poem, which was taken from the play written by William Shakespeare, called Macbeth. This text was taken from Act 2, Scene 1. Is this a dagger which I see before me? The handle toward my hand. Come, let me clutch thee. I had thee not, and yet I see thee still. Art thou not, fatal vision, sensible to feelings as to sight? Or art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation proceeding from the heat-oppressed brain? I see thee yet, in form as palpable as this, which now I draw. Thou marshallest me the way that I was going, and such an instrument I was to use. Mine eyes were made the fools of the other senses, and erst were all the rest. I see thee still, and on thy blade indulgent gouts of blood, which was not so before. There's no such thing. It is the bloody business which informs thus in mine eyes, and oh, the one half-word nature seems dead, and wicked dreams abuse the curtained sleep. Witchcraft celebrate pale Hecate's offerings, withered murder, alarmed by his sentinel, the wolf, whose house is swells. Thus to the stealthy pace, with Tarquin's ravishing strides, towards his design, move like a ghost. Thou, sure, and firm set earth, hear not my steps, which way they go. For fear thy very stones prate for my whereabout, and take this horror from the time which now suits with it, while I fret. He lives. words to the heat of deeds too cold breath gives. I go, and it is done. The bells invite me. Hear it, Duncan, for it is a knelt that summons thee to heaven or to hell.
Hello, so I'm the fourth judge in this year's online poetry competition 2020. I'd like to first start off speaking about the poems that weren't exactly poems. They came from Shakespeare's dramas. The students chose some of the most well-known pieces from Shakespearean drama, and this is probably the reason why they were chosen, because of their style of writing and what made them so rich. Some of these, of course, were performed as drama. Pavel's rendition of Macbeth, Is This a Dagger? He had props, sounds. I think these things really contributed to the reading. Linda, of course, gave an absolute fantastic dramatic rendition of an extract from Romeo and Juliet. Other ones we had was Livia doing All the World's a Stage. All of these were done absolutely to the finest. Moving on from the drama, I was also very enthusiastic to see some students presenting their own poems in this competition. This is something rather new. So in Moimir's Going Away, he had a character who fought with himself. I mean, there was a lot of internal conflict. And then we had Matthias's Formula One, which had very interesting in terms of rhythm and style and pace of it. And there were some similarities with a young Muhammad Ali's poetry. Next, if we move on to love poetry, the choice of poets that the students decided to use were very commendable. Agatha's used Pushkin's I Love You. Franny's Sarah Teasdale, who I wasn't familiar with, was an excellent rendition. I really liked the line, a taper in a rushing wind. I think it was the final line of the poem. The choice of words, I think, really carry home the meaning of poetry and the love of words and playing with words. And of course, Ellie's Neruda's poem, If You Forget Me. This was done with perfection, I think, in terms of actions and engagement. But the love poems I enjoyed. Marek, you used this black and white. It was very atmospheric, what you've done with Milton's on Shakespeare. Sorry, I think I've forgotten to mention Rebecca. So Rebecca, you've taken something also from a work of fiction. And I think the refrain really helped not only the delivery of the poem, but it also helped to make it more memorable, which is a good thing to help. It gives you the opportunity to voice it in different ways and let it sort of grow each time that you use the refrain. The points, of course, were being given for voice and articulation. Volume, of course, was very important. So it was sometimes important that you didn't swallow certain words of the poem. Certain words, of course, needed to have a stress. So those words needed to be really pushed out. And I think the students who did better managed to do this really well. I love the pace and rhythm of poetry. I want to hear it. It needs to imitate feeling, and of course the pronunciation should be there. Evidence of understanding, it's a hard one actually for judges to assess. Your comprehension of the poem has to be there, mastery of style. I felt some of the shorter poems, they didn't give you enough time to show that you really understood the poem. I think on average the poem's length, or the recording's length, was about 1.5 minutes, and I think anything that was below 1.5 minutes, you couldn't really show me your true understanding of the poem, because I just don't think it gave you enough time, regardless of how beautiful the poem was. But you can still keep the poems with you. You know the poems, you love the poems, and you appreciate the language, which I think came across very, very strongly. At level of complexity, so the ideas, language, diction, syntax, and of course the length of the poem, these did come together in a way that ultimately we had to judge. The level of complexity and I think evidence of understanding. This could be seen best in students who used action, who changed around, who changed the intonation, who put stress on words, who accentuated certain levels of the poem, who used the rhyme scheme to deliver punchlines almost for certain aspects of them. Other things that could help were the props.
Now, of course, we have to judge the poems based on their accuracy to the original text as well. That has been my job, as well as that of Miss Renee Selekowitz from the British Council, who I would like to sort of extend a very great thanks for her own adjudication. Sadly, I will have to be speaking for the both of us today. I won't, however, be speaking about the actual accuracy itself much, because I believe that most of you, the contestants, have managed that fairly well. We haven't had any very, very low scores. That much I can say. However, to me, personally, it feels that most of the very, very high scoring and the sort of best performances, I would say, have had some mistakes in them, perhaps due to their length. It feels that there is almost this correlation between the amount of mistakes made in terms of accuracy and the actual dramatic quality of delivery. One thing that I would like to highlight across all of the poems that I have personally focused on in Kvarta and higher year groups is that a lot of you managed to get the rhythm and the pacing of the poems right in the sort of perfect moments and in the perfect way. But hands down, have to give another sort of award for really, really strong acting to Linda with her delivery of Juliet's speech from Act 3, Scene 2 of Romeo and Juliet, of course. Your characterization of Juliet as this extremely passionate, disempowered, yet sort of very, very strong and emotional character, that really showed through and really shined. And I think that perhaps this wasn't your intention fully, but I think in cutting out the nurse's lines, you gave the section a whole other meaning, in that with the nurse not being there, there's this sense of loneliness, which again empowers your lines, empowers the character that you're trying to play. Absolutely, absolutely wonderful. Same thing I would like to say about Moimir and his own poem. While, of course, there is a lot of us, the authors, in what we write, your poem went above and beyond. You definitely gave it all that you got. It almost seemed as if you were interpreting your own poem in that regard. You had this character who was having a dialogue with God, with higher powers. That was absolutely, I have to say, again, brilliant in the sort of dramatic sense. And finally, for the Kvarta group, not to understate how wonderful of a performance this was. Ellen Nguyen and her rendition of Neruda's If You Forget Me. We've had a lot of love poems this year. There is no denying that, and this one ranked above.
Hi, I'm Bruce, and I was one of the 5 judges in PORG Recites English Poetry 2020. I've had fantastic experiences competing in previous years, and now I'm grateful to have had the privilege of contributing as the live delivery and physical presence judge. 2020 was a strange year, to say the least, and so, of course, we had to put a bit of a twist on the usual setup of the poetry recital competition, and we conducted it online. Fortunately, our participants accepted this new challenge and submitted dozens of video recital performances, of which I would now like to highlight some of my favorites. Starting with the youngest category, Maria Kazulina had a creative approach by adding just a touch of music to help set the tone for her performance. This was particularly effective for this virtual form of recitation. On the other hand, Andras Drautsky's forceful presence stood out as wonderfully theatrical, and I can see it working on stage even better than it did when recorded. Several students in this middle category performed poems they wrote themselves. I particularly enjoyed Moimir Zaleshak's incredibly theatrical performance of his poem, Going Away. Speaking of passionate performances, Franciszka Haszkowcowa stood out to me in this category. While some performers tend to exaggerate and might perhaps appear melodramatic, Franciszka was very nuanced and gentle as she worked with the dynamics of her poem. She was patient with her emotional buildup, and importantly, she knew when to slow down to avoid endlessly escalating. But my absolute favorite was Feng Wen, who was also successful at working with the ebb and flow of her poem, and was able to reach new dramatic peaks and incorporated movements and gestures to add emphasis. Just like Franciszka, I truly believed her performance. And finally, even our smallest group of contestants, the oldest category, had some great performances. Livia Cherveniakova's minimalistic approach was subtle and effective, while Marek Niemiec took his work outside and recited his poem with a handheld camera to complement his solemn but personal performance. And last, but certainly not least, Pavel Jedek truly surprised me with his creative use of costume and set design in his nearly 4-minute performance of a scene from Macbeth.
What an amazing poetry competition this year. 2020 was an interesting year. Online poetry recitation for the first time ever in the history of Prague Recites Poetry. And we are so pleased, David Bohr and I, with all of the contestants. You have done an amazing job. Thank you so much for committing the energy and the effort, and I hope you carry those poems with you for the rest of your lives. I know that I have recited poetry when I was your age, and they're still with me now. 53 years I am, and I still have poems that I was reciting at an early age, and I hope you carry them with you too. I want to say thank you very much to all our contestants this year, and a special thanks to Rennie Selkovitz from the British Council, who was our accuracy judge, to Mark Aston for being our judge for Prima to Tertia, for Alan Matthews for being our judge for Quarta to Octava, and for Bruce Bybee, a veteran of the poetry competition, for being our judge overall for the acting, the focus, and the delivery points on the recitation. And most of all, I would like to thank David Bohr, a great powerhouse behind this whole competition this year. All of you deserve great commendations. There has to be winners, unfortunately, but I think all of you are winners. Thank you so much. All the very best for Christmas and 2021. Let it be a great year. Thank you.